It's a habit. It's an occupational habit.
And also very, very simple. Very, like, super simple. Like the singlest of the people that I ever seen.
I don't see how this is tell everyone that I'm seeing.
Viewers at home, welcome to our first episode, our inaugural episode of this podcast that we are yet to give a name to. And I'm talking to Jason today.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing, my brother?
I'm fine. What do you do, my guy? I just don't see you every Sabbath. I don't know what do you do other than church. What else do you do?
I'm a Bible worker.
A Bible worker. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Wow. So there's always church. No?
There's always church.
Oh, that's good. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So what pays the bills? The Bible working pays the bills, or there's something else?
The Bible working does sometimes. I wouldn't say pays the bills, but it contributes to some of them. I also work as a construction. I don't know if it has a title.
Construction technician
Yes.
or construction runner. You link
Yes,
people with the
yes.
stuff and everything.
Something of that sort.
So you're a dealer.
The street name would be that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So big people now. So you link them with these earth movers and so forth.
Yes. Actually, I'm working for an earth moving company, so
Wow.
I am helping facilitate
Marketing and so forth.
and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow. So you know a big deal about these things.
I'm new into it, so
Okay.
not so much.
Not so much.
I'm learning. Yeah.
But it's a good industry.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Okay.
It got some money.
So you can hook me up with some money, again.
As soon as we get the tender to do the roads as well.
No, that's fine. So this is Jason, and Jason is also an elder at the church. He's not just the guy that you can see, and he's also very, very single, very, like, super single, like the singlest of the people that I ever seen.
I don't see how this is tell everyone that I'm seeing. Yeah.
So, Jason, we want to talk about this book, The Great Controversy. What did, if you were to describe this book in one paragraph, what did you say? What is this book about? If someone asks you,
What is
the book, The Great Controversy, what is it about?
The great in very few short words, The Great Controversy is a book that entails the story of how God has been in control even in the darkest times of humanity. Even it gives hope on what God has planned for the future and what is in store for us all.
Okay. So it's a book that talks about the past as well as gives hope for
The future.
the future.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you. So I think if you were thinking of something to read, to-do list, or planning on your reading list for the year, probably you've already planned and there's lots of novels there on your list. Maybe you replace one novel and put this book, The Great Controversy. It's quite a good one. So chapter 1 of this book, when I was looking at it talks about the destruction of Jerusalem.
Yes.
What's the deal here? Disaster of Jerusalem. What are we talking about here?
Well, we when we're talking of the destruction of Jerusalem, we are looking at a larger prophecy that was spoken of by a whole lot of prophets before even Jesus came. And when this was spoken of, we get a lot of people, or a lot of it was a time where they didn't really understand. You see, you would find that some of the prophets who wrote about the destruction of Jerusalem did not understand what was being written. And so the destruction of the Jerusalem was just a prophecy that was given to the children of Israel about this city that they held so dearly. You see, the city of Jerusalem is, I mean, it's the jewel to the Israelites. It's even today, if you see the war in Israel, it's all about this Jerusalem, this city. So the destruction of Jerusalem was a sign that was given to them as God I want to say turning his back on the children of Israel, but it is a time when God is saying he's had enough.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. I see. I'm following. So before we proceed, I forgot to mention we are at Boulder SDA Church in Harare. That's where we're talking from. This is Elder Jason. He's also from Boulder. He's an elder here. And this is during lunchtime. People are just having fun, and we thought to have this conversation just to talk about this book, The Great Controversy. So, like what you're saying, Jason, Jerusalem was the epicenter of it's like a jewel, like what you say.
Yes.
It's very important. It's a symbol to the Jews. Actually, even right now, if you're reading about heaven, the last disciple, John, when he's been given a vision, he says, "Then I saw New Jerusalem." When I was reading myself, I realized that the reason why he's saying I saw New Jerusalem is not because he saw it written there in New Jerusalem, but because the best city he had ever seen, the holy city he knew, was Jerusalem. So heaven to him looks like Jerusalem, but a better one,
a better version of that.
Yes. So now it shows how important Jerusalem was as the capital of worship. This is where the temple was. And to see it being distracted, what would that have meant to the people living at the time?
Like I was saying, it signified that God had withdrawn himself from that nation because of the many years of rebelliousness that they had against God. And I think the crowning jewel of their rebellion was them rejecting Jesus Christ. And they, like we said, they held this city so dearly. They held it so preciously that even Jesus, when his disciples asked him what would the signs of the end be, yes, what will they be, and he points, and the disciples show him. They show the building, the temple. And when they show this temple, Jesus says, "Verily I say to you, not one of these stones will remain upon the other." And then that was when Jesus gives his prophecy concerning Jerusalem. We find in
24, also Matthew.
Luke 19. In Luke 19, you find he gives, if he says, "If only thou knew the time of thy visitation."
Okay.
You are pointing them to the real reason of this chapter is that there's a limit to everything, and God has given a probation to even us today.
Okay.
Are you with me? And this chapter has to, it shows, or it brings to light that even us today, there's a probation, and we should know the time of our visitation. Just like the children of Israel, they had their time where God would be withdrawn from them.
Wow. Yes, I'm following. So this whole thing was also a sign. It was a sign. By the way, I heard you saying, "Are you with me? Are you with me?" You are not preaching to me, my guy. You're not preaching to me. So don't do that thing.
It's a habit. It's an occupational habit.
I hate to say that. So don't do that thing.
Yeah.
All right. We are still talking. Well, we have guys that are laughing from behind the cameras, which they should not be doing, but they are laughing. So, we are talking about chapter 1 of the book, The Great Controversy. We're at Boulder SDA Church here in Harare. You can visit us anytime. We're actually like a 5 minutes walk from the CBD. You can be here anytime. If you are in town and if you get the number of the elder from this show, you can even call him. He'll pick you with his car. This guy. You pick you with his car from town. You say, "I'm in town, I'm looking for church." He will pick you and you come to church. So don't worry. And also, there's food every Sabbath at this church. They provide food every day. We actually have people who come from other churches to come and eat lunch.
To eat this lunch, yes.
And then they go back to their churches. So it's a church to attend. So
yes.
there are other signs again. What are other signs of that are mentioned in this chapter that were there of the impending destruction? That is the signs even of the coming of Christ and so on that are mentioned in this chapter.
The signs of the destruction of the city, or
the signs of the destruction of the city, to say the signs that probably that Christ gave when he talked to them about the destruction of the city.
Yes.
That say, actually, if you're going to see this, you're going to see this, you're going to see this. Is there anything like that is mentioned?
Like I said, if you go read Luke chapter 19, you get where Jesus is. Or maybe before we get there, there's a time when Jesus they call it the triumphant entry, where Jesus enters into Jerusalem, and the Bible records and says Jesus wept over the city. Great controversy says that the type of pain that he had was not just any ordinary pain, but it was a very significant pain, a painful experience for him. Why? Because he understood what the prophets had said.
Okay.
The prophets before that had told that Jerusalem would be besieged roundabout. Are you with me? And these men of war, the Romans who were in control at the time, would besiege this city. And when they besiege this city, you would find that the Bible says that the men and the women would lose their minds. And as they lose their minds, you'd find they would start eating shoe leather, and they would start even opting to eat human flesh, and all these different things he spoke about, because they were significant, because these things were not heard of in Jerusalem. Cannibalism in the holy city, imagine, and imagine telling this to these people, that you will one day be eating each other. It sounded like madness. That's why you'd find they would stone the prophets, because they thought, these guys, how can they say we would eat each other, we will do these things, and who would besiege us?
Okay.
Are you with me? Because God is with us, and if God is for us, who can be against us? That's their idea, their mentality. But then they're being told that someone will besiege you roundabout, and he will overcome thee, and not one stone will be left upon the other when they do come. And I think it's a sign that they neglected to hear, because they felt that they would always have God with them.
Yes. And I think another issue that was there was also because at some point they shifted their focus to viewing Jerusalem and the temple as more important than God.
Yes.
Maybe they didn't realize it earlier on, but it certainly sank in their minds that to them the city became a symbol, and they held it more important than the faith itself. They held it more important than Christ. That's why even when Christ came, at some point they denied Christ, but yet they still held Jerusalem so highly and the temple so highly, and they thought that that was a Christianity, or rather that was worship. So sometimes I'm thinking, maybe as people at home, sometimes we could start valuing some artifacts more than God himself.
Yes.
You value even church, to say the name of your church, you value it so much that you think this is heaven and earth. Even your pastor, you value him so much. Your prophet, you value him so much, and you think if they are to apostatize and say I'm no longer a Christian, you yourself you die. You think if this guy is not a Christian, then why should I be Christian? So sometimes we do that. We idolize things. And when that happens, we miss the point. And I think the destruction of Jerusalem, in a way, it was a wake-up call to the Christians, to the believers at the time.
Yes.
That no, actually God is there. And even if the city is not there, even if the temple is not there, God remains there. After all, he says we can't make any house for this.
Yes, that's true. And I think also an interesting part of all of this is there was still a warning for those who believed in God, that when you see them besiege this city, are you with me? You do not be afraid. Or you just need to trust continually in God, and He will protect you. And if it happens that this comes on the Sabbath, you should not go out.
Okay.
But God gave significant, or Jesus Christ gave warning when you
them.
see these things happening, you need to know when to leave.
Yes.
Are you with me?
That's true. That's
Yes.
true. Yes, I'm still with you. Stop asking me. I'm still with you. So the other thing is the Romans.
Uh-huh.
They're the ones who, maybe let's talk about that a little bit.
Mm.
How was the besiege of the city? How was it? Does the chapter tell us about how this takeover of the city came to be?
Yes, it gives a very detailed account on how the city was besieged. You see, Jerusalem was a city that was built in such a way that was almost impractical to penetrate.
Okay.
So therefore you would resort to tactics of like besieging. Like besieging is basically just roundabout encamping around the city and stopping all supplies of food, water, and all these different things. So when they did that, they choked Jerusalem.
Okay.
So they resorted to things like cannibalism, like we said, and we get detail that this happened for quite a bit of time. The city held out, it tried, but eventually it was overrun.
Okay.
And we're told as it was overrun, when these men came in, they destroyed without prejudice, without any filtering. They killed, they raped, they did all sorts of things to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And the most vivid part was the part when the temple burned right to the ground, because it actually is what was interesting is the temple was not supposed, when they started the attack, the temple was not supposed to be touched. That was the orders, because this temple was beautiful.
Yes. I remember
It
stood by Solomon.
Yes, it stood on a hill. It was made of marble. It was just beautiful to look at, and the Romans wanted to preserve it because it was really that, and that's why the Jews were so proud of it. But it burned down, nevertheless, because God said it will burn down.
Okay, I follow. So actually, I like how you're saying it, because even in the chapter, it's quite how Ellen White paints the picture. There's the horror of how it happened, how Jerusalem was besieged. To say the inhabitants of Jerusalem were captured inside. The gates of the cities were closed and barricaded, and they could not leave Jerusalem. And they even closed the waters that were leading into Jerusalem. Jerusalem was being fed by a stream. They blocked that stream. There was no water. There was nothing. And I think if you read the book, you'd actually I don't know. I'm a storyteller myself. I like writing stories. I like reading. I like movies and so forth. The way it's written and how it is, it's like no other movie.
Yes.
How it was done. So I think it's a book to read, and it explains how a God had warned people about it.
Yes.
And it happened as God told. Yes. And even in that besiege, it shows also to say, even among the people of God, even the people of God can also suffer these things. I know there are people who would assume that the moment we become Christians, we become immune to suffering. To say we become immune to people hating us, that everything's going to just sail. It's going to be okay. But apparently, if you are reading the Great Controversy, you see that the people of God suffered.
They did.
But they persevered because they did not throw out, or rather they kept holding on to the gospel. Yes. So I'm actually, that's something that is quite intriguing to see. And then there are other issues that are mentioned in the chapter. There's the issue of the escape of the Christians. The escape of the Christians. The chapter itself, it actually tells us how God warned people and warned them that, and told them that their salvation was there, even after the temple in Jerusalem has been destroyed. People were not going to be destroyed with it, but they were also going to be survivors. They are going to survive after that. Can you add on that thing? Post the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple is gone, but people still say the believers still survived and they continued. How would people still continue to believe in God when his temple has been destroyed?
Okay.
Remember, this is not just a church. This is where the most holy place was. This is where they thought, this is where Christ, or rather God, was dwelling, and it is destroyed. Post that, how do you continue to believe in a God whose house has been destroyed? How do you do that?
Yes. It's with this chapter we get to it, like you said, it's a very dramatic chapter. A lot is happening, and it captures the reader there and there, like with the very first chapter, and with the destruction of this temple, we find that there's a lot that happens. There are people who survived this attack, and it's like, to answer your question, how is it then that, how do you then believe in God whose house has just been decimated or been destroyed? I think it was Jesus spoke a lot about this. He spoke and he said all these things, or these things that were done, were a type of what was to come.
Okay.
They were a form or a symbol of him. Are you with me? And they were a symbol of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, when he died, the need for that temple was no longer needed. And it was signified when Jesus died. The Bible records and says the veil was torn from top to bottom. And what that showed was that there was no longer need for that whole sacrificial system that the temple was offering. Yes. And then Jesus Christ, now with what he had done, is he now moved the church from that Jewish setup to him. It now moved the center. That's why you would have now the Christians were in that picture in the time of the destruction of Jerusalem. The church had moved from that, and God no longer resided in the temple. So that's why it got destroyed, because God no longer resided in it. And now God would now reside. It says he told the children of Israel, I will make a new covenant with them. Are you with me? That will be in your hearts. And that's God has been warning with all the prophets from way before Jesus Christ about the destruction and what God intends. Like with Ezekiel, that's where he writes, he says, I want to make a new covenant with you, so I can write my laws in your heart, and all these things, and Ezekiel, Isaiah, all these prophets spoke about this destruction, and they did not listen to it. So now it's happened, and I think it served to someone who is rational at that time. I'm sure if you saw the destruction and you've heard of this destruction, and now you see it happening, I think a rational being would say, surely God spoke and it has come to pass. And I believe that after that, I would find that there were a lot of people who then converted to Christianity because of the fulfillment of God's word. But then obviously there are many other people who would still have been hung up with caught up with that whole thing. And believe it or not, the temple actually was built about 3 times. So it wasn't something new to them. So probably there were some people who were still thinking that we will build it again. I think even today in modern Israel, you find that same idea still there. They still want to build the temple. So there's always that.
Yes.
And yeah.
I like the aspect to say God now desires to have a relationship with his people that is connected in their hearts. He does not want us to view him as a God who resides in some space somewhere, but he wants us to accommodate him in our hearts. By doing so, we are transformed from within our hearts. We don't just become followers and we are having God who is like outside. So now he wants a relationship with us. That is why that is also something that is being emphasized in this chapter. And God and Jesus, as he's warning his people, he also told them that to say, those who are in Jerusalem, flee in Judea, flee to the mountains.
Yes.
And then they in that way, a sign also to say that they were supposed to go out also. As they are going out of Jerusalem, they are also going to minister and spread the gospel. That's another thing. And because people would be content to stay in Jerusalem only and preserve Christianity as, or rather the gospel as one, as theirs, or as something that only belongs to the Jews. They say, no, now go out.
Go out.
Wherever you're going, you also evangelize where you go. That's a thing that we'll also meet in chapter 2 when we're talking about persecution, where we'll see that persecution also forced people to go out. And then as they ran away, as they spread out the world, they also went out to spread the gospel. And that way Christianity survived as it is right now. So maybe any parting words, concluding remarks from the chapter that you'd want us to glean on as we conclude.
Okay, maybe what I think the significance of this chapter was pointing to, like I said, is the probation aspect. Okay. Is that the Jewish nation had a probation? Are you with me? They Daniel spoke about it and said a week. Are you with me? A week will be given. And in the midst of that week, but that's not what we want to look at. But what I'm saying is that they were given a probation, a time where they needed to reconcile with God. And if they did nothing within that time, there would be nothing else that divinity could do for them. So it brings us back to us in this modern day, is that there is coming a time where even God cannot do any, even Jesus Christ cannot do anything for us. And as sure as that probation ended for the children of Israel, so will it end for us today. And God, Jesus has given us so many signs, like He gave them. He gave them these things. If you see these things, you must know what to do. And today, if you look at it, we are neglecting those signs. Many of us are still in Jerusalem. We are still hung over that holiness of for instance, the church. We put it so high. Like you're saying, we shouldn't make these things so high and so important that we forget our one-on-one relationship with Jesus Christ. What does that one-on-one relationship with Christ entail? It means that if it means us leaving the church buildings we've built and going to the mountains, that's what we have to do. Because God, by the destroying of Jerusalem, was showing that there is no place that is said to be holy, because I am everywhere, and once you call on me, that place now becomes holy, not just a building altogether. So God is saying to us, the probation will close even for us today. That's the most significant part we need to understand about the chapter, is that it closed for them, it will close for us.
Okay.
So we need to heed the signs and know what we need to do before it's too late.
Thank you. Now you're speaking like a gospel worker, not like a construction guy. So I think we are introduced in this chapter. We are introduced in the book of this of the Great Controversy, where we are meeting the destruction of Jerusalem. As the chapter is beginning, when I was reading it, I thought to myself, this book begins with destruction of Jerusalem, which means the story is finished. What else after the Jerusalem is being destroyed? Then what? But this is the beginning of what today we hold as Christianity, and this also points us to what is to happen in the future in our lives. Like what Elder Jason has said, probation closed for others, it could close for you and me. So it's time right now that we make a relationship with God. That way we safeguard our future. Thanks a lot, Jason. And I hope you come again next time and talk to us on many other subjects that relate to salvation. Yeah. You know, it's good to have young people who believe in God, who are still in the church. Me as an elderly person, I appreciate you, the young people, for coming for liking God.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, thanks a lot to our viewers at home. We'll meet again in the following segment, in the next episode, where we'll be talking about the persecution of Christians in chapter 2 of the book, the great controversy. I'll be with Eldon Lovu again from Boulder SDA Church. May God bless you until we meet again. Thank you.